Hey there, everybody. This is Chris again, and I'm very excited to have a friend, John Syatt, with me this morning. I've known him for a long time, and we go way back, and I'm very honored to have him with us. But let me just start by giving you some background of John and George Morris. John is the co-founder of Century 21 Everest, which has a number of offices, uh, locations in Utah, including the number one ranked Century 21 office and nearly 8,000 affiliates worldwide. So that is quite a distinction that he holds, John and George. And I started with John and George. I had my real estate license back in 2010, sometime, which was right about the time where they first started. And so I think back then you had about 20 agents, and now you have like 400.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. We probably had about 20 when you joined, and we got to a point where we had as many as 1,200. But we sold a portion of the organization that we had in Southern California, and we operate now just out of Utah, from the north all the way down to the south into sunny St. George.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I know
Yeah,
I've been to your office here in Southern Utah, and I've met with Brian Burnett. He's quite the machine, and
he is. It's
he's
amazing what he has done.
yeah, he's very good. So this is a great opportunity. Just a little bit more on John's bio. He states here, Century 21 Everest is founded on and operated under very specific principles of leadership and personal growth. John's primary focus is the personal and professional development of people through inspiration, motivation, training, and coaching. John believes the greatest, that the greatness lies within all of us. Is that something you still believe, John?
Oh, even more than when that was written. I don't remember when that was written, but I believe it even more. Yeah, absolutely.
So, it's very interesting that you've focused, to have a very focused goal where you're motivating, inspiring, and training agents. How do you do that?
It's not easy. It's not easy because anybody knows this. It doesn't matter what you do, you yourself have to be motivated, right? And you have to be inspired. And if you're not motivated, if you're not inspired, then it's difficult to motivate and inspire people around you. So it really ultimately ends up being an inside job. We have to focus on ourselves. It's personal growth. I said years ago when George and I started the company, and I got to a point where I just had this aha. And I said, George, you know what I realized is that we don't really own a real estate brokerage. We do, but not in its essence. Really, what we own is a personal development company that happens to work with real estate sales professionals. And what I mean by that is that, you know, if we're going to help people, agents, be great real estate agents, we really need to help them develop who they are personally. If we can do that foundationally, then of course the idea of being a great real estate agent is much easier.
Right. Interesting perspective. So you're involved with developing people to become better.
Yeah,
I think that's very noble. Helping when they grow, the business grows. It's a win-win on all situations. Maybe what we
yeah,
can
no, I
do,
love it.
maybe what we can do is back up a little bit too. You know, pretend like you're talking to, a nephew or someone that's still in high school, and how would you explain the advantages and disadvantages of being a real estate agent? What is a real estate agent? Kind of the basics.
Yeah, well, a real estate agent, I mean, on a national level, you'll hear the term realtor, and realtor is a professional designation. It's part of the National Association of Realtors. You can be a real estate agent and not a realtor, but most real estate agents are realtors. They're part of that organization. And a realtor or real estate agent basically helps people live the American dream, buy a home. And then, of course, if they have a home and they need to sell it and, buy another home. But it is a process whereby you help people basically live the American dream, own a home, and raise a family in it. And it's a very rewarding business. It's a very fun business because you get to help people financially. It's a very big decision. Most people will invest nothing greater than what they invest in a home in their lifetimes. And it's an important part of building wealth. The number one way to build wealth in the United States is through real estate. And so we get the opportunity to help people not only live the American dream, live in a home, but to build their wealth, not only for themselves, but hopefully for future generations, for their kids and grandkids. So it's very rewarding. When you asked me that question, Chris, I think about when Einstein was asked the question, why are we here? He was asked that question by a reporter and somebody who was interviewing him. And he had a very simple answer. He said, to serve others. That's why we're here. And that's really what a real estate agent does. He or she serves others in a very significant way, in a very significant capacity. Because if you think about it, a home is a place where we raise our kids, where we experience joy and tragedy and growth, and where we create memories, and those are very important. And so we have a very significant part that we play in that.
I like that quote. Yeah, I've done a lot of these interviews, and I'm surprised at how much people find joy, happiness, fulfillment in not meeting their own needs, but in helping other people get what they want.
Well, I think we want to be useful. I mean, if we are useful, if we can make a difference, we feel valuable. I mean, the number one human need is acceptance, validation, or acknowledgement. And if we can feel that, then of course we feel good about ourselves. And what better way to get that acknowledgement, that acceptance, that validation than to serve others?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's some of the fulfillment you've had. What about the possibilities? What
Yeah.
could you do?
Well,
I mean, what can you do as an agent? I mean, what
well,
options?
Chris, that's it's a great question, because I grew up in Orangeville, Utah. Most people don't know where that is. I grew up in Orangeville. Most people say California. Say
Yeah.
no, Orangeville, and they say, well, do they grow oranges there? No, there are no oranges there. There are a lot of cows there, a lot of dirt there, a lot of sagebrush, a lot of alkali. But I grew up in a small town in trailers. I grew up relatively poor, and I say that because I look at where I came from and then what I've accomplished in real estate. Real estate's great because if you will work hard and if you will dedicate yourself to really applying the proven systems of real estate, what it takes to be successful in real estate, I don't care who you are, where you've come from, what your age is, if you're 18 years old or you're 80 years old, I don't care what side of the tracks you were born on. Or you're skinny or fat or male, female, gay, straight, doesn't matter. You have the ability to succeed at whatever level you want to in real estate. Whatever you want to make in real estate, you can make it. I mean, Brian Burnett's a very good example of that. Brian Burnett makes millions of dollars in real estate in St. George, Utah, right? And if a kid from Orangeville, Utah, who grew up in trailers, grew up relatively poor, can succeed in real estate, anybody can. But you have to follow the process. You have to follow the system.
Yeah, and that leads us to why most people don't. Why don't most people can't or maybe don't succeed? What is it about real estate that most people can't seem to get to the success? They do one or two transactions.
Yeah, it's not really specific to real estate. I think it's life. I mean, real estate can be emblematic or an example of this principle, but it's not just exclusive to real estate. If you look at it in life, a lot of people, unfortunately, don't achieve what it is that they say that they want. And it really comes down to this. It's a pretty simple concept. There are two primary emotions by which people allow themselves to live. These two emotions dictate the way in which we conduct ourselves on a daily basis. And it took me years to figure this out. This isn't something that I've known forever. But this is something that I've learned, that I've discovered through my own experiences. Because, any principle, Chris, that I talk about it not because I read about it in a book. I talk about it because I learned it through my own failures, through my own successes, through my own struggles, through my own progress. And what I've learned is that the two primary emotions are this: love and fear. And every single day, we have the opportunity to decide whether we're going to exist in a state of love or fear. And we have to do that consciously, and it's not easy because we we have been trained socially, but we've also trained ourselves habitually based upon our actions. Actions meaning our thoughts, but then also our behaviors, to behave in ways that can be very consistent to living in fear and living very counterproductively. So when you ask why are some people successful and many not in real estate, well, the same applies in life. Why are some people successful but many not? It comes down to the idea of living in fear versus living in love. And we can talk more about that, but that's the general answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if we break it down, I still do the things that we've learned, the systems I learned at Everest. I still remember standing around this little table in the mornings doing our
Yeah.
affirmations. I am great. George is great. John is great.
That's
Uh,
right.
eh,
And I still do that. I still do it.
yeah. Well, it seems like, unless you're putting the positive into the brain, it's the default setting is very negative. The
Well,
world is
I
so
mean,
corrosive that you have to purposely program yourself.
absolutely. I mean, we know this. Every day we got to take a bath because we get dirty. Every once in a while we should probably change our underwear because it gets dirty. We should probably launder our clothes. We probably should wash our car because it gets dirty. Every once in a while we got to take our iPhone or phone in to get it fixed because there's something wrong with the operating system. Everything over time gets off track. And so we have to be conscious of that and work on a daily basis to do really what is called a course correction and really, I guess, reprogram and pay attention to what our consistent thought patterns are and make certain
Mhm.
that we're not being driven by fear, but rather we're being pulled by love. I'll just give you an example. People of passion, people who are driven by basically love versus fear, are the people who are most successful. Why is that? Because people of passion are connected with what they want to achieve. They're very connected to it. They're very clear about what it is that they want. And they have a deep desire to succeed at it. Whereas people who live in fear don't really ultimately care where they end up as long as they get away from the things that they're afraid of.
Yeah. Yes, we're trying to avoid pain almost. Yeah.
Yeah. They'll go
Yeah.
wherever they can to get away from the pain, which
Yeah.
oftentimes is far away from their dreams. Because here's what I know. If we want to be successful, meaning we want to have more than what we have, to achieve things that we've never achieved before, to become more than we've ever become, we have to behave in ways that we've never behaved before. And that's scary.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we have to consciously say, well, I'm going to be okay being scared. I understand that I'm going to be fearful, that I'm going to be afraid to make mistakes, to stand out, to look maybe dumb, to maybe appear to not have it all figured out, and to simply be okay with that, because that is the necessary process, the necessary state of progress and ultimately success.
Exactly. It's you don't have any growth in your comfort zone.
Not
I
at
do
all.
I still do a lot of real estate. You can't be a secret agent. You've got to get the word out there. And so being in banking, I'm a loan officer now. Every single day, I'm on the phones for an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours, contacting real estate agents, see if I can talk to them about some options we have for financing. And it drives the whole business. If you're not comfortable, and no one's really comfortable with that, it gets easier over time as you meet people and as you get used to thousands and thousands of these calls, and you already know what people are going to say. You know the objections they're going to have. And
Right.
so that's what drives the success. You've got to have the discipline to put in the time, to put in the work. You're not going to pick up a shovel. You're not a construction worker. Your job is to contact people.
Right. Right. And,
So,
and it's not an easy job. And to your point, it does get easier over time. But that fear or the discomfort of making the calls never goes away. And the reason it doesn't go away is because it's called our reptilian brain, or our caveman or cavewoman brain, is programmed to protect us. And it says basically this, that rejection by other people, people saying no to us or hanging up on us or saying mean or nasty things to us, is basically a rejection of us in terms of who we are as a person. And that Cro-Magnon or that caveman or that reptilian brain says that if we're rejected, we'll die. It goes
yeah.
back to the day of the caveman and the cavewoman, because if we were rejected, if we were pushed out of the cave and out of the tribe, we were killed by beast or the competing tribe. And so our modern brain still processes it that way, because it was so deeply ingrained into us because we had to understand that. Otherwise, we wouldn't survive. So it's a survival technique. And we have to recognize that on a conscious level and really recognize this and say, when I'm feeling that fear and I don't want to go out and do the things that intellectually on a conscious level, I know that I need to do, we need to say, you know what? It's okay. I'm not going to die.
Yeah.
People saying no to me does not mean that I'm going to die.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. It is. It's a deep-seated thing. And I think to get past that, yeah, I have the calls where they're in a bad spot and they're rude and short and they hang up. It's, all right, let's pick up the phone and call somebody else. No problem. But a lot of real estate is you've got to put the time in. You have to put the work in, especially when you're brand new. You know, I to give you one example, this is one of my real estate stories, Sean. You like this?
Yeah. Oh boy, you got to pull one of these out from the archives, huh?
Yeah, that's right. This is a long time ago, but a lot of what John and George talk about is making contacts and door knocking. And so I was in a neighborhood where there was a for sale by owner home. And I knocked on the door and I came in and gave a little spill and toured the home and got to know this couple. They were an older couple, probably then in their 60s or so. And nothing happened. I mean, they listed the home with somebody else. And it was very interesting, John, because I was putting in a lot of time and sometimes you get frustrated. Hey, nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. What's going on here? This sucks. This is terrible. And you know what happened? About a year later, that guy remembered me. I don't know. I made an impression. And he said, hey, we were already committed to use somebody else, but we've got a need. Will you help us? And at that time, I passed the baton to my wife. I had put my license on hold, but she picked up that work that I did. They bought and sold at least a dozen homes through her, at least.
Wow.
I mean, that one contact
Right.
probably earned her over $100,000. I'm
Isn't
not
that
kidding.
incredible? No, that's great. That's
Yeah.
great. You know,
So,
you say that, and it reminds me what Ed Milet talks about, you know, the power of one more. He says that most people don't have a vision problem. They're pretty clear about what it is that they want, right? I mean, if I were to ask you, would you like to be rich or poor? You'd say, well, I want to be rich. If I asked you, would you like to be happy or sad? You'd say, well, I want to be happy. Would you like your family to be proud of you or disappointed in you? You'd say, well, no, I want them to be proud of me. It's not that we don't, you know, have a vision. We do. What most people lack is depth perception. They believe for some reason that success and what it is that they want is so far into the future that they don't behave today the way they need to see the opportunity today. And that one conversation, it's just that thing that you want, that success that you want, that pathway to the life that you want, the person you want to become, is one event away. One prospecting call, one podcast conversation, one coaching conversation, one listing appointment, one opportunity away from you achieving what it is that you want. And if people would realize that, if they would understand that, they would begin to behave in ways that they would see the opportunities in front of them. But when they don't believe that it's right there, they don't see those opportunities because they're looking too far down the road. And when it's so far down the road, it's difficult to be motivated. In fact, what we tend to be is afraid because the value of what it is that we want seems so unattainable, right? That the fear is a greater motivator than the draw of the thing that we want because it's so far away. We just don't see it.
yeah, that vision. That's very wise, John. I think that's very good. Very good. Let me ask you a personal question.
Yeah, you bet.
Um, so you have grown. You know, when you guys first rented that Class A office space, I thought these guys are crazy. Are you kidding
Yeah.
me? He must be paying at least $20,000 a month, and they've got like 10 agents. Like, holy Moses!
Yeah. I wish
And
it was 20. It was more than that, but yeah.
it was more than that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, John. But I mean, what personal growth have you seen over the years? Something that was very difficult for you in the past that now, because now that it got easier, you got stronger. What are some of the things that you've seen?
Well, I would say there are several ways in which I've grown, but one of the things that I don't say this word cavalierly, and I don't mean it in the wrong way, but I do mean it genuinely. I'm proud of the idea that I figured out how to be a public speaker and how to inspire people and motivate people. And you know this very well because you saw me in the very beginning. And I say this, and people say, "No, come on, that's not true," or "You weren't that bad." No, I was bad. I was horrible. Uh, People would say, "We don't want to hear him. It's difficult. It's hard. It's like it's tough sitting there and listening to him." And I wasn't good, and that's the truth. And it's okay to say that. And I'm not being self-effacing. I'm not cutting myself down. I'm just being honest. I wasn't good. But I can tell you, and I don't say this pridefully, but I say this proudly, that I don't think I'm good at it. I think I'm exceptional at it because I've worked very hard at it. I've worked over a decade. In fact, coming up on 16 years, I've worked at that.
Hmm.
And it's my ability to express thoughts, principles, ideas, philosophies, and share it in a way with maybe some stories and some anecdotes and some analogies that hopefully will inspire people and motivate them to realize that whatever they want to become, whoever they want to become, whatever they want to achieve, that they have the ability to do that. Because I firmly believe that we've all been endowed by our Creator to have the ability to achieve whatever it is that we desire. But it doesn't mean, and nor did He intend that it would be easy. There's going to be a price associated with it. And if we'll pay the price, we can achieve it. And so I worked over the last 16 years, and I still do, to improve my ability to do that very thing. I'll give you an example. Way back in the day when I first started public speaking, if I were asked to speak for a 15 or 20-minute session, I would literally, Chris, you may remember this because I shared this often, it would take me 18 to 20 hours of preparation for that 15 to 20-minute presentation. Now, if you were to ask me to present today for an hour, legitimately, you could walk up to me and say, "Hey, could you talk to this group here? Our scheduled speaker canceled. They missed their flight, and it starts in 15 minutes. Could you come in and speak about something inspirational, motivational?" I'd be happy to do it, and I'd have no concerns in doing it because I've worked very hard over the last 16 years to do that. So I would say that there's a lot that we can focus on, a lot that we can improve upon. But I believe that one of the things that's most important to our personal growth is our ability to communicate with other human beings. And if we can do that, it's powerful what we can accomplish, no matter what it is that we do.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, John. I think you're very good. I don't remember you being bad. I thought you were great. But yeah, I had.
Thank you. But you're suffering amnesia.
But I had the same thing. I had, and I don't think I can call myself exceptional. I think I get by, but I can remember years ago that I was at a retirement party for my boss. I was working at the credit union at the time. She had, been there for 30 years, and all of her family was there, and all the board of directors were there, and the coworkers were there. And my wife was there, and I didn't even anticipate. Part of this party is you stand up and say your 2 cents about this person. And so the chairman of the board gets up and he says, "Hey, this person's great, isn't she, we're going to miss her," and says a few words. And then he says, "Who else would like to get up and talk?" And it's like, oh crap. So I totally missed the opportunity. I was scared to death. And after that caused me so much pain, John. Sometimes pain's motivator. And I
Oh, it
said,
can be, definitely.
so I looked into Toastmasters. I don't know if you ever heard of that organization.
Of course, I actually participated in it in my early stages. Yeah.
Exactly. And I thought, I've got to learn, I've got to conquer this thing. It's going to eat me alive. I can never have that happen again. It was holding me back in my career. And so I spent 6 to 8 months, maybe longer, going to their weekly meetings, presenting talks. I stayed in that meeting until I was comfortable. I was too comfortable with it, and it became almost too easy. But yeah, there's systems out there. There's organizations out there to help people to become more like John Syatt.
Well, I would say aspire higher, but I want to take an exception with what you said, because you said that you wouldn't necessarily say that you're exceptional. Chris, I know you. I mean, I've known you for a long time, and we may not have been in contact much over the last several years, but I know who you are at your core. But I also watched you as a real estate agent. I also worked with you in the banking field for several years. And I would tell you that you are exceptional. And I mean that sincerely. One of my favorite people in history, and I would consider one of my heroes, even a mentor, is Muhammad Ali, because of his example and some of his philosophies. And one of the things that he said consistently, if you don't know him, it was a boxer in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. But for those of you who do, you probably know that one of his famous quotes is, "I am the greatest." And he was known as the greatest, right? He would say that consistently over and over and over again. And some people were offended by it. How can he say that? I mean, the nerve, the audacity, the arrogance to say that he is the greatest, right? And and I I would say, well, but hold on a second. The entire quote is this, because that wasn't the entire quote. He said, "I am the greatest." And I said that even before I knew that I was. Now, here's the point. When Muhammad Ali said that he was the greatest, the actual quote was, "I am the greatest." And I said that even before I knew that I was. I believe that the single most important conversation that any of us can have on a daily basis, maybe setting aside our conversation with our creator, is the conversation that we have with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can't say to ourselves that I'm exceptional at what it is that I do, well, then at what point do we become exceptional at it? So
Mm-hmm.
here's my point. It's the be do have concept. If you want to have what those who are highly successful have, maybe the skill to be an inspirational, motivational speaker, for example, then you have to do what that sort of person would do. Well, in order to do that, you have to be that. Well, in order to be that, I have to have that sort of conversation with myself and say, I am an excellent public speaker. That's my mantra. I didn't just make that up. I've been saying that for years. I am an excellent public speaker. Now, I said that to Muhammad Ali's point. I said that even before I was. I am an excellent public speaker. But because that was the conversation I had with myself, instead of, oh gosh, I'm a horrible speaker. Nobody likes to listen to me. I'm not inspirational. I'm not motivational. I don't like doing it. I mean, let me ask you a question. Which approach do you think is going to be more effective in achieving what ultimately it is that I want? To say that I am an excellent public speaker versus I'm horrible and nobody wants to listen to me. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important that we have to be careful about the language that we use. So when I say that I'm exceptional at it, it doesn't mean that there isn't room for improvement. There are many people who are better at it than I am, and there's a lot of room for improvement. But I am exceptional at what it is that I do.
Yeah, I think
And
that's
and so
very.
are you.
Well, thank you, John.
Yeah, I mean it.
There's yeah no and there's been some situations where um, I can remember a funeral I was called to speak at. A very, very difficult position to be in, and in some sense, you have to put the emotions aside and deliver the message you've been sent to deliver. So I appreciate that, John. Um, let's get back to a little bit, someone that might be in high school or is in high school right now, um, and they have some interest. They have some interest in real estate. What would you recommend? What should they do to find out, number one, if it's for them, and how to develop a career plan to get into it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the modern world, one of the quickest ways to find out more about anything is to get online, to do some research, maybe get on YouTube and look up just real estate agents, look up, just information about what it is to be a real estate agent, and just observe those who are in it. Look at what it is that they do, how they talk, what it is they say that their days, involve, and to see if that is something that's intriguing. On a more practical local level, you could go to your local real estate office and just talk to the receptionist and say, "Hey, I'd like to talk to the broker of the office." The broker is the lead of the office.
Mhm.
They are the people who are responsible to oversee all of the agents, and they're an excellent source of what real estate is about and how to get in it. The
Mhm.
good news is that in the state of real estate, or in the state of Utah, in real estate, you can get a license at the age of 18. So I've known people who are still in high school but have turned 18 who end up getting their real estate license. In fact, I know one young lady. This was years ago, but she got a real estate license when she was still in high school. For her last 4 months in high school, she had her real estate license. And in her first year in real estate, the first 12 months, she made about $200,000 and sold 66 homes.
You're kidding me. As an
I'm
18
not
year
I'm
old?
not kidding. As an 18-year-old, 18 and then 19. Yeah,
Oh my heavens, John. Well, she
yeah.
must, wow, been a huge go-getter. I'm glad you brought that up though. Have you ever met somebody and said to yourself, wow, he or she would be a great real estate agent? What is it about those characteristics that you, or what is it? What is it that you would
Yeah,
say?
that's interesting because there are times where I've said that and I was wrong, and there have been some times where I said, "Yeah, I don't know, I don't think that is really going to be a good fit," and I was wrong. But as a general statement, what does it take to be successful in real estate? Um, there are four personality styles as a general statement. There are those who are expressive, people who like to talk, right? And then there are analyticals, people who love numbers, maybe a little bit more reserved, right? Not necessarily talkative, conservative. There are drivers, people who are go-getters, very direct, right? They want to charge the hill and take it, mount their flag, right? And then there are amiables, the people who are kind, who are patient, right? And I think any one of us can be any of those four at any given time, but we all have our dominant personality style. And people will often ask me, well, which one of those four personality styles is the best one to be? And oftentimes people will say, well, I think it's probably the driver, the go-getter, the person who says, there's the mountaintop. Let's get to the top of that and place our flag. And some people say, well, it's the expressive, the people who like to talk to people, because you have to prospect in real estate, right? And my answer to it is no. You can be an analytical, you can be an expressive, you can be an amiable, you can be a driver, and you can be highly successful, because I can show you within my own company people who are any one of those dominantly and are highly successful. So what does it take really? Well, number one, ultimately discipline. Discipline to simply do what a great real estate agent does. It's like you want to be a great member of the track team. You want to be a great starter on the varsity team in basketball. Do you want to be a great pianist? Do you want to be a great singer? Whatever it is, doesn't matter. You have to have the discipline to learn the craft, the skill, and do what it takes on a daily basis to perform at the level ultimately that you would want to. I'll give you a great story. There was this group of women who would get together and invite somebody who was exceptional at what it is that they did. Sometimes they would, bring in a woman who was head of a national corporation, a CEO, and have her come in and talk about how she got to that point, starting from ground zero and getting to the highest level within that company. Well, at one of these little get-togethers, they brought in this pianist. She was a piano, just a phenom. She was a concert pianist, and she played around the world to crowds of thousands of people. Well, these ladies were fortunate enough to have a connection that they brought her in, and she performed for them in this small little gathering. And she performed for about 45 minutes. And when she was done performing, of course, they all gave her a standing ovation, this small little group. And one of the women she said to the piano, she said, "I would give anything to play the piano the way that you play." And this woman, this concert pianist said, "No, you wouldn't." And the woman was surprised. She said, "No, I mean that. I would give anything to play the way that because you play so beautifully." And the concert pianist said, "No, you wouldn't." She said, "Don't take this the wrong way," but she said, "If you were willing to pay anything to play the piano the way that I do, you would have already done that."
Yeah.
So my point is that we have to have the discipline. There are those who say that they want it, but then there are those who do in order to have that. And we have to have the discipline, number one. That's the most important thing. And if you'll have the discipline, then I will tell you is the second thing that you need is you need the pathway, or you need the formula. And if you have the discipline, of course, you'll figure it out. It's called being resourceful. If somebody really, really, really wants to be a real estate agent, they'll figure it out. Those who really want to be will have been taking notes on this conversation that we're having, and you asked, where should they start? And I said, well, I'd get online and start doing some research, and then I'd find your local broker and go in and just talk to them. Those who really want to be a real estate agent will do exactly that. Those who don't have the discipline, they won't do it. So that's my answer.
That's very good. I like the background. I like the piano story. That's the truth. You know, if you really want something, you'll pay the price to get it. There's no
Yeah,
freebies.
you'll find the answers. You'll be resourceful. You'll find the solutions. Everybody has a challenge. The question is, are you going to have the discipline to find the solutions to the challenge?
Right, exactly. So this might be repetitive, but if you think about all of the roles that you take as a broker, over 400 agents, and all of your daily duties, what brings you the greatest happiness, fulfillment? And you might have
Yeah,
already touched on it, I think, but
that's so good. Yeah. You know, when I was in second grade, um, you probably remember this, you know, like parent teachers conference, right? The school would there'd be a day where parents would schedule to come in and talk to the teachers, and the teachers would talk about how you were doing in school, you
yeah,
know, how Chris was being, I know, the class clown, and
yeah,
being the disruption in class. And
yeah,
I
that's
say
right.
that because that was me, right?
Yeah,
Well, I remember this was second grade, and it was parent teachers conference, and my mom came back from parent teachers conference, and she said, you know, your teachers are all saying the same thing. And when she said that, I remember this rush of like fear, like the adrenaline that we get, you know, when we're afraid of something. And it just came over me. And I thought, oh no, what did I do wrong? I know they've discovered me, you
yeah,
know. And what she said next, you know, when we're in second grade, how old are we? What, eight?
yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah,
Eight, right? I'm 54, almost 55 years old, and I still remember this from this, you know, this conversation with my mom. She said they're all saying the same thing, and I didn't say, well, what are they saying? She just continued to talk, and she said they're all saying that when you see a fellow student having a challenge, or they're sad, or they're having a hard time, that you're the first person to go to them to help them. Now, I don't share that with you to say, hey, look at me. I just know that from when I was a kid, I'm wired to want to help people.
mm,
And
mm,
I think ultimately we all are.
mhm,
We really are. We're all wired to do that, to be helpful,
mhm.
right? We want to be helpful. And so that's what I enjoy doing. I love helping people, and real estate allows me to do that. I love finding a young man or a young woman who says that I want to be successful, you know, and then they ask me, how do I do that? And if I can help them do that, to become successful, whatever successful means to them, and you know, I want to play a part in that. And it's fun to watch people grow. It's fun to watch people achieve. And if you can do that and allow them to do that, then hopefully it gives them the opportunity to do the same thing and to pay it forward.
Huh. That's very interesting. I love that. I love that, John. I think you're right. There's two settings we have. We can focus on short-term pleasure, you know, just or you can focus on what lasts a long time. And I think helping people, you know, years ago we were at a race. It was a cancer race, you know,
Mhm.
for raising funds, and I had just run a 5K. It was kind of a short little deal, and I was holding from after you finish the race, you get refreshments or whatever. I had an orange in my hand, and I was walking back to the car with my four sons. I think that time three sons with the wife, and there was a lady in a wheelchair, and she had a sign. She needed help. I didn't have a wallet. I had no money. I had nothing. And as I walked by this lady, I just had a thought, you should at least give that orange, you know, give it to one of your sons, have them run it back to this lady.
Mhm.
And it was such a simple, dumb little things. That's the first reaction I had, was like, what? Like an orange is going to make a difference. But I didn't listen to that voice. I said, that's probably a good idea. I gave it to one of my sons. He ran it back to this lady, and I didn't even see her reaction. I could not believe, John, how many days, maybe a weeks, how good I felt about a simple little gesture like that for
Yeah.
a long time. I thought not only was it helping her just a little bit, but it was showing my sons where value is, helping,
Right.
it's simple. I didn't have any money, a simple little gesture. And I
Yeah.
think,
Well,
so.
yeah, no, I love that story. And it reminds me that, in a free society like ours, it's the one of the basic tenets is the idea of capitalism and the free market and individuals freely, offering services in exchange for payment, right? For money, basically, or other services, right? And I think about that those who offer a high degree of value, no matter what it is they do, we talk real estate, we could be talking coaching, we could be talking a doctor, an attorney, a police officer, an EMT, a teacher, doesn't matter. That those who offer a high degree of value to society will always find a place and will always find an opportunity to be richly rewarded, whether it's with money or, to your point, how ultimately we feel. I mean, one of the primary drivers of giving to others is how it makes us feel,
Mhm.
which is great. I mean, God intended that. If God
Mhm.
didn't intend that we should give to others, He wouldn't allow us to feel the way that we do when we do it.
Mhm.
Right. So
That's,
we know it's the right thing.
mhm. Mhm. So I love that. Thank you, John. I'm going to kind of move ahead. I know your time's very valuable. I could keep you on this call for probably days.
Well, I'd be
So
happy to do it, Chris. I'm
yeah,
enjoying it.
that is but if you could think of your daily tasks and
Mhm.
coaching some real estate agents, are there challenges that you commonly find? I mean, is there challenges with like staying disciplined? What do you do? Is like, I just got up this morning. I have no desire to go into the office. And how do you, maybe it's just an internal thing I have to do. I have to find the drive inside, and it's not external
Mhm.
by given to me by John, but are there tools that you can use for yourself when you don't feel, I just want to stay home. I want to call in a sick
Right.
day.
Right.
What tools?
Yeah, a few things. It's not really too complicated. Number one, follow a schedule. Right. So outline what it is that very fundamentally needs to happen in order for you to achieve what you want. Let's say, for example, that you wanted to achieve a certain level of physical fitness. You wanted to gain 10 pounds of muscle, you wanted to lose 10 pounds of fat. Well, ask the question, what is it what I would have to do in order to achieve that? It's not going to be difficult to find the answers to that in today's world. You can find whatever you need in terms of answers to any of those sorts of questions, right? So once you get those answers, then put together a schedule that recognizes what it is that you have to do step by step on a daily basis. So one of the things we know we would need to do if we wanted to lose 10 pounds of fat is we would have to incorporate exercise and then probably change the way in which we're eating, right? So then we would define how we would exercise, when we would exercise, and then also what we would eat and when we would eat. And then if we set together a schedule and then every day just did that over time, we're going to achieve what it is that we want. So number one, live by a schedule. Number two, recognize that even though we have a schedule and we know what it is that we want, there are going to be some days we wake up and we don't want to do it. And
Yeah.
and you know what that means? It means we're normal. It means we're human because everybody deals with that. I deal with that. There are days I wake up like, no, are you kidding me? I don't want to do this. And yet I do it. And so this is my standard. This is my mantra. I do it despite how I feel.
Hmm.
We have to say, look, this is the conversation. Remember what I said. The single most important conversation we can have with anyone is the conversation with ourselves, maybe setting aside our creator. And the conversation with myself is this, John, it doesn't matter how you feel, right?
Hmm.
Just get up and do it.
Hmm.
Because I know that I can get up. I know that I can get up and make my bed. I know that I can get up and I can shower. I know that I can get up and eat the breakfast. I know that I can get up and get to the office. I know that I can get up and attend that first meeting. And even though I may not be enjoying it while I'm doing it, at least I know that I am living in integrity with what it is that I said that I wanted and what I have to do in order to achieve that. And
Hmm.
so if I can live by that standard, I'm going to do it despite how I feel. And then
Hmm.
the last thing would be this. make certain that I'm very mindful of the conversation I'm having with myself. So one of the things that I do every single day is I make certain that I'm putting positive information into this computer,
Mm-hmm.
right? If every day on our smartphone we inputted bad data, a bad operating system that had bugs or flaws in it, how well would our phone work? Not very well at all, right? Most people end up putting a lot of bugs or junk content into this computer, and it massively affects the way in which that computer functions. So be very mindful. Look for, on a conscious level, the sources that you're going to pay attention to that fill this computer. Find things that are positive. Find things that are motivational. Find things that are consistent with what you know are the truths. Right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're a religious person, things that you know are consistent with those religious tenets, like the idea of forgiveness,
Mm-hmm.
for example, the idea of not coveting, right? Honesty, those things, right? Find those sources, find those environments that reinforce those principles, those philosophies and standards. But make certain that on a daily basis, whether you're reading it, you're watching it, you're listening to it, or you're around people, right? Or you're participating in things that reinforce that. But that's going to be critically important to the process.
Yeah, I love that. The schedule is huge. And once you set the schedule, it's not an option anymore. It's just what you do. It's like
Right.
I get in the office, the morning is so important. I think there's so much critical mass in the morning. It's like if I don't
Oh,
get on schedule in the morning to do the right things first, the rest of the day's kind of shot. It's like it's
that's exactly right.
so so important.
It's like the train's already left the station, so to speak. One other thing that I would mention is accountability. If you can look for others, maybe look for a parent or a brother or a friend or an aunt or an uncle or some mentor that you have and say, hey, this is what I want to achieve. This is what I've committed to on a daily basis to achieve that. Would you please hold me accountable to that? What I want to do is I will send you a text every day reporting what I have done. And I would like you to hold me accountable to that. And if I don't, then this is the penalty or this is the price that I would pay if I didn't do that. It's
Yeah.
another great way.
Yeah, no, these are very good tools, John. I feel like I've kept you a long time, but maybe just a couple more
I,
questions, John.
as much time as you want. I mean that.
This is great. Do you think it's harder to coach someone to success or after success? You know, so like I just earned $40,000 last month. I'm going on vacation.
Yeah.
You know.
Here's what I would say to that. There are 4 levels of coachability. The first level of coachability is not coachable at all. And I run into people who are not coachable. Their ego is so big and it's in control. It's large and it's in charge. And the ego
Mhm.
says, I got it all figured out. I don't need your help. And it's interesting because I'll run into people who have no experience, for example, in real estate, and yet they've got it all figured out. And I've been doing it for 31 years. And I built an organization that at one point had 1,200 agents. We sold about 8,000 homes and did about $3.5 billion in volume or annual sales. And yet I sit down with people who apparently know more than I do, right?
Yeah.
These sort of people are allowing their egos to control, believing that they have it all figured out and they have nothing to learn. And here's what I know, that we all have a blind spot, which means that we don't know what we don't know. And I have blind spots, despite the fact that I've been in the business for 31 years, right? So there's that first level of coachability is just not coachable at all. Then there's the individual who has an ego. It's not quite as large and in charge, but it's still there. And this person is selectively coachable. What they will say is, well, I like that, but I don't like that. So in other words,
Mhm.
they'll say, well, you've presented this formula to me, this step-by-step process, but I'm only going to do half of it or part of it because I don't like some of it, right? And so as a result, when they try it, well, it's like taking a mathematical equation. If you use half of the mathematical equation, but not all of it, are you going to get the right answer? And of course, the answer is no, you're not, right?
Mhm.
Then the third level of coachability is the person who is reluctantly coachable. The person who's reluctantly coachable has an ego, but they say, okay, look, obviously this person knows more about it than I do. My coach knows more about it than I do. So I'm just going to listen to what they have to say. But I'm afraid that it may not work for me. I mean, because he doesn't know or she doesn't know me. They don't know that I'm not very good at, and then fill in the blank, right? Or they don't know that I was born on the wrong side of the tracks, or they don't know that I'm the wrong religion, or they don't know that I'm the wrong sex, or whatever excuse that we can come up with. So therefore, we don't go all in. We do it reluctantly, right? And then the last level of coachability, which is the pinnacle, is completely coachable. Now, to answer your question, the person who is completely coachable, I don't care if they're new in the business or they've reached that level of success that we would all look at and say, wow, that's amazing. And yet they want to go to the next level. It doesn't matter. If they can find themselves being in that level of coachability, of absolutely coachable, then they'll be able to get to that next level, whether they're just starting or they've been doing it for years.
Very interesting. Yeah, it's too bad that you can't just hit someone on the head and say, "Hey, snap out of it."
Yeah, that'd be pretty cathartic too, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
feel pretty good.
I'm gonna use the hammer method on you today. Oh,
Yeah.
well, this is very good, John. Just one parting question, and maybe if you look over, life is not all fun and games. Life is meant to be hard. We're meant to become stronger through the experiences we have.
But
It's not
can you
supposed to
pause
be,
for a second?
yeah.
Can you pause for a second? What you just said? I would like everyone who is listening and watching this to really comprehend what you said and take that in. Life is meant to be hard. That
Mhm.
is so critical. And I wish that in my early years, when I was in high school and college, and when I failed out of law school and I was suffering from the challenges in real estate and lost everything, living on a friend's couch down in his basement because I had lost everything, right? That I wish I had understood that and didn't play the role of a victim. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think that's really important to pause on that for a second, and for young men and women to accept that and realize that life is meant to be hard, because it's in that struggle that we become better. If you don't face challenge, you don't become better. It's the resistance, it's the challenge that makes you better and more capable. So remember that. So I'm sorry, but just
No, it's just interesting because I've listened to my, some relatives speak, nieces and nephews, like, I don't understand this. I'm just having all these feelings. It's like it's hard. It's like,
yeah,
well,
of course it
it's not
is.
supposed to be like it's not supposed to be like this, right? It's supposed to be smooth sailing and it's supposed to be sunny days every day and it's all supposed to be great. But yeah, I mean, if you go to the gym every day and you lift 10 pounds and never increase the weight, you don't you don't get any stronger. You got to
Right.
have that resistance. And so that's very interesting. I appreciate you sharing that. But that was the question I was going to ask is when you face really hard, dark times, difficult times in your life, what have you seen or used to get through it?
It's interesting you asked that question, because I wanted to make certain that we at least finished on this idea. What I have learned through my own personal struggles, my own personal experiences. Um, and this is a very sincere answer. And I know that it is the answer. It's the answer. I'm 100% certain of it. The answer is that we have to love ourselves. You must love yourself just as much as your creator loves you, to recognize that if you're here on this planet for a reason, for a purpose, you were chosen to be here and you are loved, right? And it's important you recognize that, and that you love yourself, and that if you can love yourself, really love is the ability. Remember, we talked about two emotions. There's love and there's fear. And if you can live in a state of love and not fear, well, what does that mean? Well, let's start first of all with fear. Fear is what? If we look at the emotions that we experience when we're in a state of fear, we can be anxious, we can be angry, we can be unforgiving, we can be mad, we can be sad. Those are all emotions and states of being when we exist in a state of fear. But if we are love, and I believe that we are love, because we come directly from our creator.
Mhm.
We come from our creator. So we are love. So if we can be in a state of love and we can be love, what is love? Love is kind. Love is patient. Love is caring. Right? Love is forgiving. Love is authentic.
Mhm.
So I would say love yourself. Show yourself grace. And make certain that if you're having a hard time doing those things, then surround yourself with people or find people who will do that for you. You know, there are times where we all have a hard time with ourselves and maybe aren't having a very good conversation with ourselves. So then lean into others and the belief and the faith that they have in us. I think it's really critical and it's very important. So the one word answer is love, to love yourself.
Yeah, yeah. And God is the source of all love. Yeah, he's, you know, if you watch some of the videos that I've produced on the channel, it doesn't take very long before you can find out that my wife and I have been through some very difficult times with losing a child. And we found out very quickly who our true friends were. We found out who you could really lean on. But really, in a time like that, even to lean on a spouse, she's completely bankrupt emotionally. The only person you can rely on is someone that has all the strength. The burden is too great. It would just crush you. The only person you can receive strength and peace from is God.
Right.
And you just have to go to him and say, this is it. I've got nothing. I need more. I need something. I need help. And he delivers.
Yep. And that's what I mean, love, right? Because love is God. God is love.
Exactly. Well, thank you for your time today, John. You're amazing. I wish you lived closer.
You're very welcome.
So,
yeah. Well, hey, listen, and I mean this sincerely because I will be coming down to St. George in the next couple of months. So let's make it we're getting together because it'd be fun to go to breakfast or lunch or dinner.
That would be very nice. Thank you again, John.
You bet, brother.